Hey there, comic friends. I'm Travis, and it's Talking Comics. We're going to talk some comics. Tons of comics. These are books for the week of August 28th, 2024, or at least that's when I got them. I'm assuming most of my order comes when it's supposed to. Every once in a while, a book comes at a weird time. I'm going to talk about them in no particular order. There's a ton. I got like 17 books or something like that, so we'll see how much I talk about all of them. I don't know. It's whatever kind of hits me as I'm picking them up and decide I want to talk to you about them. Or as I read them, I went, man, I want to talk about that part. Anyway, first up, we have White Boat, Distillery Comics, Scott Snyder, Francesco Francavilla, which is, for me, it's about the art. So this is issue number 2, I believe, of 3. This issue is interesting. It starts to have a advanced version of the island of Dr. Moray almost on it. It's a little more secret society than that, aspects to it also, but there is some genetic experimenting going on to elevate man to the next level, whatever that's going to be, is what it seems to. And on this wonderful island, there is some of the experiments that didn't quite take, like this giant lady, for instance. It seems to be that most of the Denzians of the place are, despite whatever their aspects are, whatever made them what they are, they're not really necessarily mentally with it. We do find out that our main character in here, his brother who disappeared, presumed drowned, has the right genetics to move on to the next level without having necessarily all of the problems that the other experiments have had. At least that's how it's implied. The art continues to be wonderful in it. It's interesting. I'm curious to see what that last issue's going to be. And interesting. I'm enjoying it. I don't know what else I have to say about it that doesn't just completely crack open the story itself. But intriguing. Be curious to see what the last issue has for us, because my understanding is it's a 3-issue book. Another distillery book, just to get these giant ones out of the way so I can stack them up neatly, is Life. And it is a flip book. I really, really enjoyed this. So I guess we call it a sci-fi potential heist gone wrong sort of a book. So written by Brian Arezzo and Stephanie Phillips, Danielle Zegel, I can't say the man's name, and Lou Ridge on colors. So premises for Life, and here we got the Life with the lock on it, and I find that interesting considering, like I said, the flip book. So premise seems to be we have a heist going on, a guy who just got out of prison for it seems to be bank robberies, breaking into safes. That's his job. He's a safe cracker. Has been roped in by his girlfriend to do one last heist. And we find out, meeting with the people that he's supposed to be doing this with, it's being bankrolled by, it's out in the outer rim of where people and exploration is and whatnot. And there's a derelict planet that they are going to rob. They find out that the main person who's financing this gig is a social media influencer with lots of drones, and she doesn't care about what they find. She just wants to take her people on exploring something that they haven't seen. That's her big thing. There's a lot of misgivings around this, but against what seems to be our main character's better judgment, he says sure, because they're already out there, and they don't really have a way back. They don't have a way back if they don't go this route. Here's our influencer lady with her little drones flying around her. Really, really like the art. It is dark, heavy inked. It's definitely this guy's style. Just really enjoy it. And the other half of this book, this half, our wonderful chap there, is dealing with the premise of criminals who get multiple life sentences. So in here, for instance, there is a person in here who is a serial killer. They give them 32 life sentences. And what we discover, because, God bless corporations and the stuff that they do, they're testing a drug. And this drug seems to be that it gives you extra lives. And maybe not extra lives, because they haven't really shown us that aspect of it yet, but you're going to live the length of extra lives. So, and they're putting you on a prison planet where you will live out all of your sentences. So if you're sentenced to 32 life sentences, obviously that happens at least here in America, and you can't serve 32 life sentences. Just means you're basically never going to get parole, because you can't live more than once, right? Here, in this, they successfully give people longevity to live out all their life sentences. And hundreds of years have gone by, and they're still on the prison planet. Which, whatever's happened with the prison planet, we don't know. But it's a prison planet full of people, full of criminals, and in most cases, hardened, deadly, sociopathic criminals, in a lot of cases, because who else gets life sentences like that, right? It happens to also be the planet that these poor SOBs thought that they were going to go in and rob, because there was all this great old corporate stuff sitting around. And lo and behold, the planet is going to instead have these guys on it. The flip book works super well for this initial issue because they're telling two different stories and two different timelines. How does the flip book work once things are happening in the same place at the same time? Not exactly sure how they'll continue, because otherwise it becomes more annoying than it does anything else, in my mind. Because you're reading along, you get to the middle of it. In this case, we get this. We're reading along, and this is the criminal side, and it has the lock on it. I can't remember what's on the other side. Oh, and of course, on the other side, it's a diamond, because they're going to be collecting diamond. And this is kind of the end of the of the bank robber side of it. And then there's a couple splashes in here of one of the other covers, the variant covers. But anyway, I really like this. I like the kind of hardness of it's close. The space travel is they have to go into cryogenic. I like all of that aspect, the more harder sci-fi-ness of it. The bank heist is going to be fun. The people who are doing the bank heist are that kind of characters in a lot of ways. Guy that's doing his last gig and whatnot, and is saddled with a social influencer in the group. And then you've got what this is going to be about. Really interesting. Really enjoyed that first issue. Very much looking forward to the next issue of it. I think it's going to be super cool. Here's issue 2 of Hello Darkness. I enjoyed this issue more than the last one, but nothing that's like mind-blowing in it. The final story of the multiple stories in here is the Garth Ennis, Becky Cloonan one. Becky Cloonan's art, excellent as always. It's grim in the very 1980s, even though this isn't 1980s, very 1980s we're all going to die from nuclear annihilation ness of it, and in that there has been a strike and a counter strike, and how does it play with these groups of people personally and their own setups and how they might escape and whatnot. So it's whatever. I don't know. There's nothing that makes me excited about that. I guess I think about it. This issue didn't have a something's killing children little blip in it like the other one did, and I thought it might carry over into it. There were some that I liked. I mean, the happy clown thing one was was entertaining for what it was. The clown. It's very much your kind of standard horror fare. You find a random poster with a, hey, invite clowns, and then you invite the clown, does horrible things. That was okay. The Stargazer one, I liked the art. The story itself was, whatever. Werewolves and vampires tearing each other, nothing too exciting there. I did like the Apocalypse in slow motion story by Wes Craig, because Wes Craig's art just rocks, and this was eerie. This is set after basically everything's melted, all the ice is melted off the world, and so everything's flooding. It's raining constantly now. We've kind of reached that level of the world coming apart, and there's a group of citizens who've gathered a bunch of Wall Street people and are basically executing them for their crimes on the world and whatnot. And it was kind of cool. I enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed the I Can't Take You Anywhere, the stuff by Hack. These were actually kind of funny. So the top one up here, right? It's got a guy. It looks like he's beating up a guy in front of a car. And it says, while perhaps not the best use of time travel, Jim liked to go back in the past and beat the shit out of himself. And he's saying fuck you as he's beating him up. And the bottom one I love too. And the bottom one down here, which almost looks like Christopher Mitten art, but it's a guy saying, I love you so much, Dorian. And the woman is saying, Doug, we've talked about this. I'm imaginary and you're not my type. Take your meds. I thought those were funny. But yeah. Not blew my mind, but I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this one more than I enjoyed issue number 1. Oh, Knights. Issue number 10. This is completely Matt focused. Matt's our ghosty skeleton down here, and actually, this is Matt laying down up here too, which I didn't realize. So we basically get kind of a history of Matt, the night that he is killed by a werewolf beast. So the werewolf beast is actually a friend of his. He does not know that. They go out hunting to hunt down this werewolf beast. I get the reason the friend's being supportive doing that, but at the same time, they know they're not going to get that werewolf beast because he's got that werewolf beast locked away at this point. But it's, like I said, it's Matt oriented. It's kind of his emotional journey to try and get past the anger that he has about his death and what he couldn't do. And then at the end of it, some friends from his past, other friends from his past show up. So we may lose Matt one way or the other. I mean, because there's always the possibility at some point the ghost, Matt's a ghost, finds what they need to move on. And then they're just gone. Someday they die again, basically. And, but I don't know what's going to go on with that. We'll see. We get a little piece of the afterlife in this because his friend asks him, his friend goes, hey, what was it like when you died? And he's literally kind of at the pearly gates, not necessarily the pearly gates, but that's sort of a scenario. And then they're like, getting ready to, hey, this is awesome. Time's not linear here. All your friends are here. This is going to be great. And then someone comes rushing up and hands somebody a clipboard, and they're like, oh shit. No, I guess there was a mistake. It's not your time. Why not? and he gets a hold of the clipboard because he wants to see what it really says about him, and it's a big frowny face. That's all it is. Because they're like, oh, you won't understand it. You won't be able to comprehend our whatever. And he's like, well, that's up to me to decide. And it's just a frowny face, and boop, he's back and he's a ghost. So great stuff. Really love this comic. Love the vibe of it. Love the art of it. It's got a soundtrack, which is fun, even if I don't care for necessarily all the music. It's got a shirt of the month in it. Just everything about it is it's just cool. It's just kind of a cool, hip sort of a vibe of a book, and I just really dig it. There's a poltergeist. That person in purple is a poltergeist. That's a pissed off ghost who's out to seek its revenge. So yeah, but yeah, there's the werewolf beastie that eats Matt, and Matt's in a polyamory situation at the time. But yeah, so anyway, so it's cool. There's one of the shirts of the month. There's the playlist. There's your Spotify playlist. Gives you all the songs, who did them, whatever. That, to me, that's just extra fun to add extra elements to the book. And here's the shirt of the month. I really dig this shirt of the month. So yeah, just super, super cool. Written by Wyatt Kennedy, Luigi Forsamara, Francesco Selga, L.M. Milbra. Good stuff. I just really enjoyed it. It's got, like I said, it's got a really cool vibe to it. It's different. It feels different than the other stuff I'm reading. It's slice of life with all this paranormal, craziness that goes on in it too. Detective Comics. We're at issue 188. We're coming down to the end of this incredible run that Ram V has written with a bunch of great artists on it. This issue has Gilliam March doing the artwork, and there's lots of things about Gilliam March that I really like. He doesn't have the same colorist coloring the book anymore. This is Giraro doing the coloring. And there was a guy called Tome, I think was what his last name was. He used to seem like he kind of was always partnered with March, and I really liked the stuff because it had these really interesting purples and greens and that sort of thing when I first kind of discovered March's work. And he kind of followed along with all that. This doesn't have that in it, which takes away some of the fun of the art for me. But I still, as a general rule, I really like March's line work. I like the stretch of characters, the shapes, the angles, and stuff like that. I really love this page with the 10-fingered man going after their multi-eyeballed lady that's part of the Ohm, and especially really dig this down here where he holds one of his fingers up to be one of his many 10 eyes, which basically means he can't be mesmerized because he doesn't see with one vision, he sees with 10, and basically that's how he conquers this lady who typically can make people see whatever they want to, and that's how she wins the thing. So in this issue, it's lots of little fights as our villains help take back Gotham. I don't even necessarily think they're doing it for Batman's sake, but they want their own Gotham, and because there's no place in this quickly being rearranged Gotham, for them, and they don't want to be erased. They don't want to be forgotten like Batman is potentially forgotten. So they're doing their best they can. Some of it is super sinister. And here's Batman right now, the current bat suit. He's more of a mythical beast, coming back to beat them down and show them the error of their ways. We get a great Two-Face fight here with the werewolf. I love Mr. Freeze's battle in here is super, super cool. It's really interesting. I'm really curious to see maybe next issue or the issue after that. So we're only a few issues away from ending this whole thing. Curious to see what the ultimate ends of that stuff is, and how it squares. Should be really interesting, really cool. Like I said, I've been really digging it. Curious to see what comes next after this. I am going to get it. It used to be I always got Detective Comics. Then it went through a string of people I didn't care for, and I finally reached a point in my personal collecting career where don't just get stuff to get stuff. As much as the collecting aspect I do enjoy, I'm more of a reader, and that's what I subscribe to, than a collector, even though you can see some of my long boxes here. I don't get rid of anything, even the bad stuff. That's part of my personal reading journey. So I have dropped it in the past, and I will drop these kinds of books again if the rough patch goes too long, or there's people on it that I clearly know for sure I am not going to like. I really dug the backup story in this. The backup story in this is a Christopher Mitten drawn book, and I like Christopher Mitten's style. Dan Waters is doing the writing on this. It has to do with Talia Ghul. It has to do with her working on creating a Lazarus pit, with technology, and bringing back one of the somewhat bad guys from the from this book. And I love the bigger picture of it, and I like the small bits of it. He's the golden boy that they've resurrected, and it's his mother that basically killed him. And so they're, there's that they had that conversation about the fact that, how does that work? Do you really love him? And he's like, I'm leaving. The guy's like, thanks for arresting me. I'm leaving. I'm going to go talk to my mother. Talia's like, well, I'll come along and help you talk to your mother. But as he's leaving, she's like, okay, she doesn't want to call it jealous because she's not a jealous person. As this guy leaves free of the bonds that were on him and the responsibilities that are on him to now pilot his own course. Interesting. Love those little bits. But still just really, really enjoying the hell out of Detective Comics. This whole journey has been great. Like I've said before, it's not necessarily there's aspects that haven't been touched. I don't think you're going to do a whole lot with Batman anymore, that there hasn't been a story already told in some fashion or another, but I really enjoy the way that this one is told. And despite us having moved between a few artists now, even though it started out with just a singular artist, we've moved between quite a few different artists, and that's unfortunately kind of the nature of corporate comics. It has not taken away from the story at all. So Monstress, issue number 54. Some really crazy old god stuff goes on in this issue. There's some exploding and some lack of control that I did not see coming. And it seems like nor did the characters that are in the book saw it coming. So this might yet be a third or fourth bad thing they're going to have to deal with, as I'm not sure that Zen, the one named elder god that we know of, I don't even know that he's in control of what is going on. So, oh boy. But we're not going to get another issue in singles until 2025. So this is their next big break before they hit us with another 5 issues or whatnot. If you're reading in trades, I believe the next trade is out at the end of the month, something like that. So if you're a trade reader, go out and get it, because it's this last bit of story has been awesome as far as just really having the pace and really having a lot of stuff going on and whatnot. And it has been super cool. This continues. What you see on the cover is what you get inside. Just some lush stuff. Just very, very cool. But there's some crazy stuff goes on in it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it coming back in 2025. The upside will be, I guess, is for that 4 or 5 month break, my WoW at least gets at least a little bit of relaxation from some of the books. That's the thing with a lot of the like the image books and whatnot. They're finally starting to get the room. It seems like some of these books are getting successful. Maybe not initially. I think initially they push the book as fast as they can. But now that they're established, they can take those longer breaks. And I think the readership is going to come back to read it. They must. Otherwise, they would quit doing it. Or, I think, so the business model must work for some of these books that once they get a real toehold in that they can do this. And I'm okay with that. I'd rather there be the longer pause and then we get, the story. This book at the front, inside the front cover, it gives you a recap to kind of give you a basic if you can't remember what's going on. Thankfully, as a general rule, deep enough into the book that most of it I remember, and as I read, then I pick up whatever isn't. But anyway, so issue number 12 of the Flash family reunited. I really enjoyed this issue. It's still got its kind of weird sci-fi-ness to it. This one's got a little more metaphysical. The family's important in this one. The family's what brings Wally back out of the whole mess that he's in, brings him back from the basic time pit of despair, as it were, and launches him to take care of this weapon that basically is annihilating time. The bullet has already gone off, and how is he going to stop it? Just really cool, really great emotional book, this one, with his connection to these people and their connection to him. It's been a lot of fun. I'm shockingly surprised at how much fun I've been having with the Flash. I think that is largely Cy Spurrier is doing the art's been solid. Perez has been on art here for a while, which is a bummer because I really dug those first 6 issues that had Delgado on art. I was hoping that he was going to come back. Haven't seen that happen, but it's still been a fun book, a cool super book. And maybe this stuff's been done a billion times too with the Flash. I have no idea because I don't read the Flash regularly. But this has been a hoot. This has been a real kick. I've been enjoying it. Oh, John Constantine, HellBlazer, Dead in America, issue number 8. And now what? This is going to 10 or 11? Feels like they've expanded how many it's going to go to. So this is kind of a classic issue. This issue, the cover is done by Campbell, but the inside art is Lisandro Estrin. I don't know, my camera's going to pick that up, but I'm not going to try and read it. You read it for yourself. So different artists in this. This is classic. Ooh, I just made my camera wonky. There we go. This is classic Constantine. He goes to hell, and in hell, then he has to navigate the denizens of hell while he gets the answers that he needs, and tries to trick them out of his own thing. So far, he doesn't seem to have necessarily tricked them, but you figure it's coming. By the end of it, like next issue or the issue out of that, he's going to pull the wool over somebody because that's how Constantine, always works. I can't imagine that they're going to doom the character, in reality. But it's just a really good issue, though. Explains some more aspects, gives us some more things. Further levels the fact that Sandman, Morpheus is not necessarily the nice person that I don't know. I think people kind of simply go, "Oh, he's this, dandy, goth, cute, whatever." There's some stuff that goes on that, it once again reminds us that that's not necessarily the case. John gets some answers to some stuff he needed to some the sand. What happened to some of the sand? And who's the bigger game player? Because that's what's really, and we don't get told in this, but he gets the answer he needs to be told, who this larger game player that he's trying to figure out for Morpheus. So hopefully then he can get himself out of the jam that he is in, being dead in America. But no, really good. I enjoyed it. Like I said, the art style works for the issue because it's all in hell, basically, and retelling stuff from hell. I believe this is the artist who did the artwork on the Sandman Corinthian book, which right now I'm drawing a blank on what the name of it was. That was just out here very recently, written by Tinian the Fourth. But I think it's the same person who did that book, which I quite enjoyed, and I quite enjoyed the artwork on it. But no, some good stuff. Swamp Thing's in it. Swamp Thing doesn't do well in hell, but yeah, it's cool. It's cool. It was cool. It was lots of fun. I enjoyed it. It had all the right feels for a HellBlazer book, and so I always get tickled when they hit the right notes of that. And once again, another Cy Spurrier written book. So then we got Grommets, issue number 4 of 7. I'm just really getting a kick out of this book. It basically is what you see. It is a slice of life from the 80s, skaters, California-esque, and all the stuff that goes on with that. Told from the perspective from a couple boys as a general rule. They deal with girls, they deal with having to move and all of that. I don't know if there's a direction for this story other than it's just telling a story, a piece of life of this era in this setting, and it's just been a lot of fun. It's been really enjoyable. I dig the art. Yeah, don't have a ton to say about it, but I enjoy it. Something's Killing the Children, issue number 40. This is the last of the road stories. These are stories of things. That's a great cover. The arm off stage, and it looks like it's her own arm that's pointing at her head, which is metaphorical for this issue. She meets up with Jace and has a conversation about how hard this all is and whatnot, the burden of a lot of it, and it was another really good issue. The last issue was excellent too, where she kind of stops and chats with the therapist for a little bit. I enjoyed that also quite a bit. It actually added to the character, which I've been questioning whether or not these really add anything to the book. This part of the story. This one does also along the same lines. It adds another level of emotional content to our characters. Which I didn't think any of these would really do that, but this one does, or I feel like it did, and quite enjoy it. But I am now really looking forward to getting back to where we're at now, and do these stories help inform the next decisions that she's going to make, which I will let you know. New book this time around, Convert. I initially ordered this because, even though I knew he wasn't doing the interior art, I just love Simon Gaines. Just really cool. I'm also a sucker for the classic spacesuit, the big, moon, helmet. So those are all things that interest me. This is a stranded in space story, which I find deeply interesting and potentially frightening, depending on where you're stranded at. I mean, in this case, this guy is at least stranded on a planet, The planet seems nice initially. I mean, here he is. He's drawing. His job, he's a botanist, but also an artist. His job is to have a written, drawn record of what they've seen in the off chance that there's something happens and the database gets wiped or something like that. They have this physical recording of what's going on. I guess I should say another reason, a big reason I picked it up is John Arcudi is writing. Big fan of John from way back in the BPRD days, and going forward, he's written a lot of stuff I really like. Art by Savannah Finley and Miguel Coe there doing the coloring. Michael Hessler on letters. But he's out in this wonderful place, and they have to do a reboot of their space capsule, and it explodes and kills all of his fellow mates. So it leaves just him. He decides that there's no reason for him to stay at the shuttle, at the capsule, and it will be many, many years before someone could come to save him if they decide to send someone out to save him. So can you imagine sending somebody farther away than Mars, say, and would Earth immediately rush to go and get somebody when they don't know if anybody's even alive anymore? They might send somebody there to explore the place at a later date if they can figure out what happened and why they lost the contact with the people that they did. And they have to figure that out first. Then maybe they might send somebody. So it could be years, right? Years and years before. So it's basically this guy's journal as he wanders through this alien planet. And you find out that despite it looking the way it does, the planet is pretty hostile. Most of these stuff, you get a little bit of backstory of him remembering how him getting where he's at. But we find out that the planet is largely not digestible, and he is slowly getting skinnier and skinnier. He manages to catch a fish, which he's quite amazed. But the after effects of consuming said fish. So pretty much he does the typical thing you might contemplate. And at the end of it, when he's about at the end and he thinks it's fairly well all over, he climbs to the summit. I think he's pretty much going to kiss it goodbye. And then other life comes to find him on the planet. So I'll be curious to see what that is. I just really enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm a sucker for the Lost in Space sort of thing. Love the cover. So just all a bunch of things that made me go, I'm going to check this out. And I really enjoyed the first issue. I'm really curious to see what's next with it this whole thing, kind of watching this guy's desperation of living in a hospitable place, isolated from everything else. Next up, we have Resident Alien, the Book of Lies, issue number 3 of 4. I don't have tons to say. Just continues the whole idea of this is what it's like to raise a baby and all of those fun and hard aspects of that thing. Time goes by. Harry is a stay-at-home dad, but that's starting to make he's not sure if he understands what his purpose is in life, which, hey, that's a familiar theme, a familiar feeling. Typically it's with mothers who end up dropping their careers to stay home. But we see a little bit of that in this issue. And of course, at the end of it, we're still getting the government is figuring out that something's happening. And it looks like maybe some of Harry's relatives are going to come to visit, which will be super interesting if that's the case. Next up, we have Nice House by the Sea, issue number 2. We might as well have called this Nice House on the Lake. It is like completely Nice House on the Lake. So it makes that first issue seem really weird to me, because this issue, basically, by and large, is it's the old crew, right? It's the old crew. Art is just absolutely amazing by Bueno and Blair. Just really digging the book. Really, really digging the book. But this is much back to Walter centric sort of a thing. It There's some surprises show up. It's clearly been years since some of this stuff happened. So it's I don't know. I don't know what exactly to talk about other than I'm really digging it. I also super appreciate the fact that this book, they put all of the ads at the back of the book, so it's ad free, and then you get all the buy our other books stuff goes on at the end of the book. So super cool about that. But it even goes back here and shows us the nice house on the lake people at the back of it, instead of the nice house by the sea. So, clearly the next issue has to be nice house by the sea, because the last issue ended with nice house on the lake people showing up. And this issue ends with them showing up from the other side. So now they're going to be mixed together, and they'll be mixed together and whatnot. So despite that title, it all is relevant to itself, and I'm very much enjoying it, and I'm curious to see where it plays, how it plays out. But the whole aspect of the nice house by the sea, I'm now really curious about. I don't feel like we're going to get deep into them. We had 12 issues to get into the nice house by the lake people before things really started to get kind of unhinged and out of control, like you might imagine a place with people living together for that long might. And the other one, we're not going to get that. So those people are going to feel, I feel like those people will feel more distance, more unknown with our lake people interacting with them. I don't know if that's a bad thing. But I also don't know if we're going to be invested in the nice house by the sea, right? I guess we'll find out. As we read it. Hey, next up we have Zatanna, Bringing Down the House. Book 3. I don't know where this ends at. The argument continues over whether or not Z does magic or not. She insists she doesn't. The League of Mages, or whatever they call themselves, have kind of decided that, okay, she doesn't. They hum and haw whether they should get rid of her. They just feel like she's bad news anyway. They kind of blame her for what's happened to her father. And then we get this other magic person. I'm not a rabbit, but she has lots of rabbit aspects to her. Shows up and gives her the lowdown on kind of the other side of the story that she's not being told. She's super cute, though. See? She's got bunny ears. She's got bunny teeth. She's eating carrot soup. The art continues to be the cool stuff. Look at that page. That is so bonkers. And she kind of pitches her through looking at the other side of the story that the other mages had told her. Just awesome. Just some awesome stuff. Oh, really dig the art. The story's fun, though. We find out that she can use magic. Of course, we all knew that, right? So it's kind of these two magical groups kind of fighting over Z and whether or not they should put her down, whether or not she, needs to, I don't know, save the universe or something else along those lines. Who her dad really was. And then we get a somewhat familiar face, which I don't particularly care for, never have, tied into her at the back of this. I don't hope they don't make it a thing. She doesn't need that boyfriend, and he doesn't need her. I've never shipped that, and I don't particularly care. But it's been a super fun book. It's just been a real hoot to read. Like I said, lion's share is because of Javier Rodriguez's artwork. But a fun story too. But the art is just eye-catching, cool stuff. And next we have Saga issue 68. So 2 issues into our current era. Hazel is 12. See a little bit of circus life, where she is, where her brother is in his poor mental health. We get to see one of my favorite characters in this that's not dead. Petra is in this. It's been a year since she did the deed that ended the last arc. And clearly she's not dealing well with that deed. Hazel has a new friend. Is that friend going to get her in trouble? Because as you start getting comfortable with people, you start telling them your secrets. Hazel has a lot of secrets, obviously. Who she is and who her family is. Her brother is in really bad shape at the end of this. And mom is potentially falling for somebody again. And there's one shot of the person that she's falling for's face where it almost seems like it goes maybe not stone cold, but serious in a way that makes me really worried that this is somebody who is playing her. And that's going to be a bummer. It's not like the woman has not been hurt enough as it is. Here's our guy. Oh, hey, I read that book, the book that started this whole thing. The fact that, these people who are totally opposite of each other, totally different races and whatnot, could fall in love and have life and whatnot. And that's kind of the part of the premise of the original book was these two people who are from completely different worlds, battling each other, supposedly completely incompatible, fall in love, have Hazel, and so this guy's reading that original book. He acts like he loves it, yada-da. Chat, oh, great, you finally finished this story. Oh, we'll talk about it later. She's taking a guy off to the drunk tank or whatever. And then we get this, this page down here in the bottom. See how serious his face is there? Is that a face of somebody who just got done saying, yeah, I'm looking forward to talking? Or is there something more, especially with Hazel's dialogue around that? The mom didn't let many people inside her own inner circle. But once they did, they were always welcome back. I just, and he says to be continued. That face just seems, and Fiona's good at faces, seems just way too serious for the rest of the levity of what was talked about before that individual panel. That has me worried. I love Alana. She's awesome. She's an awesome mom. She's awesome. Just an awesome character. I loved her best with Marco. And I'm invested enough in these people. I just don't want to see her, more heartbreak. And it just feels like that look that there's something sinister going on there, right? Oh, we're getting almost to the end. The Hunger and the Dusk, book 2, issue 2. I'm just really digging this fantasy. Our orc shaman has gotten back to her people. That has not gone well. She kind of doesn't have a place right now. Her person she thought she was going to marry, of course, is married to his queen. She is an awesome character also, which makes it all uncomfortable and cool at the same time that you can have this tension and conflict and not have anybody be actual dirtbags about it. Easy to ship this relationship between shaman and warlord if the queen is some pukey person, but she's not. She's a good person. She's everything you'd want in a queen, from a queen and a spouse perspective. So that's all. I really enjoy that. That's not following the typical tropes that lots of times you see in these kinds of things. And they have the whole Vogue, the evil race that's taking over everything. That whole premise continues to be in here and continues to weigh heavy on everybody. And is interesting. Like I said, it's just interesting seeing the shaman try to figure out her place. We didn't see much of the humans at all in this issue. It ends with a brief panel of the humans. We'll see how that plays out. And how this alliance that now is potentially completely messed up because the shaman bailed on the humans. It could be a complete mess. And their enemy is on the precipice of just completely wrecking them. They're struggling because their grazing lands are bad. Everything's bad. And on top of that, they're going to be invaded. So all good stuff. All good stuff. And finally, this time around, it is the Sacrificers, issue number 11. we see the Lord, the Son, basically, squawking up the fact he's got to find his daughter because his daughter needs to take over the duties of the mother, Luna, because without the moon, without the Luna doing its phases and whatnot, the entire world is a mess, physically a mess, without those tides and all that stuff. We get some in here. Our guy finds out that his wife has been, sleeping with the Lord of Water, and he wants to seek revenge. The Lord of Water's gone, and was killed by a blue feather. So now they're hunting Pigeon. Now that we see Pigeon in this issue at all, we get our scientist that's been squeezing the juice out of people to make the gods young and eternal. It's still up to his own things. And because they can't find the daughter, the son basically is demanding another sacrifice to force people to talk about where the daughter is at. Our scientist goes along with that because he wants to find her and get rid of her also. Gets rid of her, not let her do her thing, because he basically wants to overthrow all the gods. And we have the daughter in here in her own story. She is trying to be helpful. She's trying to be loving. She's trying to be all these things, but she has this monster inside of her. They all get scooped up as the latest group of sacrifices. And poor Pigeon's one living sibling is amongst the new sacrifices. And she knows what's in, or has seen what's in the daughter and June. And it's just going to be a complete mess going forward. Very much enjoying it. Dave McCaig's coloring holds the book together. Each issue looks more and more like Andrelupa's art. I think there's one more issue of this, and then we go back to Furama's art, which is my preference, though this is good also and enjoyable. Interesting story. Just real curious to see exactly where it goes. And that's my books from last week. If you hung out this long, thanks for sticking around and listening to me yammer. Anyway, hopefully I'll be back next with some more books. What'd you think of these? If you got some thoughts, feelings, let me know. If I'm way off base, you agree, or whatever. Or you want to talk about books that I didn't talk about at all. Which would be awesome too. Anyway, have a great one, everybody.